All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to week number 2, lesson number 1. I'm going to be sharing my screen shortly, and you should see the whiteboard anytime now. All right, you can leave it in the chat. Are you guys seeing the whiteboard, and can you confirm if my audio is good? All right, I'm not really seeing the chat, so 1 or 2 persons can open their microphones and just give me a thumbs up to see if you're seeing the screen. Are you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Wonderful, good. And is the audio clear? Everybody's good to go?
Yes, sir.
All right. All right, so assuming that everyone here is comfortable, both with the audio and the visual, we are going to go ahead and proceed to begin our class. All right, so welcome everyone. Welcome back. This is lesson number 1, week number 2, and we're going to officially dive into the curriculum for preparing you guys for next year exam. All right. I trust and hope that at the end of the class we all achieve the objective and we all learn what we came here to learn. So please pay very close attention. Feel free to ask questions. I'm gonna ask somebody to I'm gonna ask someone to monitor the chat for me because I can't see the chat when I'm on a different screen. So I need somebody, just in case somebody have a question, I'm gonna assign somebody maybe in the next class to monitor my chat. So if somebody has a question, you can either tell me who it is and then tell me what the question is so I can answer. So I'm gonna need maybe 1 or 2 or 3 volunteers. So Abigail, you can be one. Miss Nicolita Gentles, you can be one as well. And Nevea, you can be one as well. All right. So you guys, please monitor the chat for me in Zoom. That in the event somebody has a question or a query, you can just tell me the person's name and also tell me the question, and then I can answer them. Noted? All right. So we are going to begin. All right. All right, guys. So we all went through the preliminary last week. Class number 1, we did a bunch of outlines and layout, where what we expect, what we're planning to do, how we're going to go about preparing you guys for the exam. In class number 2, we went through a brief diagnostic test to see where your comprehension, reasoning, and understanding ability is at. You guys would have attempted and you've gotten some clarity. And so now it's time to really dig deep and dive into those critical areas that usually are the areas where you guys have the most problem. And it's usually an area of math that you guys underrate. Not just you, it's just in general, people underrate these areas, not knowing that this is the root cause of why you guys have problems in mathematics. So that's what we're going to clear up tonight. Okay? I know that you guys are not very concerned, but you are wondering what is happening to the Google Meet. I will need to go into not the Google Meet, the Google Classroom. I will head into the classroom, and just do some updates in terms of the course outline, because some of you guys aren't. So I'm gonna do some reposts, right? Because they may have expired. I'm not sure what's going on in that, but I'm gonna check it during the course of tonight. Everybody have the course outline along with every other information that I may have posted. For those who are not in the Google Classroom, I will resend the link for you to join the Google Classroom, so you can access this information at the end of the class. Okay? All right. So with that said, let's dive right into it. Our topic for tonight, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be operations with integers. All right, so it's going to be operations with integers, and this is coming from the fundamental concepts of mathematics. So basically the subtopic for tonight is operations with integers, and the main topic is mathematics fundamentals. So mathematics fundamentals. All right. So what you're going to be learning tonight, ladies and gentlemen, isn't necessarily CSEC based questions. It's not necessarily CSEC based questions, but it is areas of concern for many. And throughout the course of this week, I can prove that in my physical classes, I have many students who have problems in these areas, and we were able to clear it up still, so we're going to do just that tonight. All right. So we are going to try to make the class as interactive as possible. As per usual, you can use up the chat, do some thumbs up, all that good stuff, and keep the chat interactive. Okay. All right. So here we go. We're going to kickstart off naturally by starting with a definition. All right. And definitions are important because definition tells us what we're working with. And then from there, we're going to transition into some examples. And we're going to give you some timer. I'm going to put a timer and time you when you get the examples. Noted? All right. And please use up the microphone because I like to hear your guys' voices as well. So, you can open the microphone and just give me a yes, sir, okay, no problem, I got it, so forth and so on. All right. So let's kickstart it, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to pull up a little tab here. And in this tab, we're going to talk about the definition. All right. So what we're looking at is what is an integer, or I shouldn't say not what is, but what are integers, right? What are integers? And that's a question mark. What are integers? Okay. So what are integers? What exactly are we working with? But on the screen, as you can see here, what are integers? I'm going to give you the definition as opposed to you can type it off or you can just watch back the recording, right? So what are integers? Well, ladies and gentlemen, integers are a set of positive and negative whole numbers. All right. So that's what what integers are. Integers are a set of positive and negative whole numbers, right? And so what we mean by that is I'm going to put some examples here on the screen in a second. Examples of positive integers would be numbers such as 1, comma 2, comma 3, comma 4, and so on to infinity. I don't have the infinity symbol on my screen, so we're just going to write out the word infinity. So 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to infinity, we call these positive integers. And of course, we have negative integers such as -1. So let's grab the minus sign, -1, comma, -2, comma, -3, comma, -4, and so on to, we're going to put NEG INFINITY, so negative infinity. All right. So pretty much essentially what we mean by this, ladies and gentlemen, is all the numbers that you're accustomed to seeing on a daily basis. As long as it's a numerical figure, it most likely is going to be an integer. So it could be the number on your door, like when you go to somebody's house and say, come to house number 15 or lot number 24. Right? Your paycheck is an example of an integer because you get $10,000 for your pay. $10,000 is an integer, right? So essentially, then, in summary, what we're saying is that it's any real number, right? Any real number, but we categorize it as being negative and also being positive as well. All right. So that's what an integer is. For those of you who are familiar with the number line, then you know that all the numbers on the number line represents the numbers in our real number system. All right. So that's what an integer is essentially. All right. And so we have our examples there as that. Now, for this particular class, we are going to change the perspective. We're going to change the perspective. Pardon me, guys. I'm so sorry. Let me just turn off my notification. I apologize. I'm so sorry, guys. All right, good. So So what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be changing the, and let me just clear the screen right now. Just move this right here. All right, good. So that's what we have working with right now. All right. All right. So essentially, then we're going to be changing the point of view of how we see integers. We're going to change the point of view. And so going forward, right, how we're going to view this is that we're going to start viewing integers as something odd and something half. So what do we mean by that? We're saying then that a negative integer, let me just grab a pen here. So a negative integer, right, just a second here. I think I'm going to use my finger here. All right, so what we're saying is that a negative integer, so NEG, negative integer. So a negative is now going to be considered as an amount that is odd. All right, let me just write that a little better. All right, so a negative integer is going to be considered as an amount that is odd. That's O-W-E-D. O-W-E-D. So this is an amount that is odd. All right. So what I mean by odd, it simply means that you maybe borrow something from somebody or you owe somebody a certain amount of money, right? And on the other hand, we're going to look at a positive integer as an amount that you have, HAVE, an amount that you have. All right. So essentially what we're looking at here is we're going to change the point of view of how we see the numbers. A negative number represents an amount that you owe or an amount that you borrow, and the positive number is going to be viewed as an amount that you have or an amount that you possess. All right. Now, when it comes to these types of calculations, students usually complain about the signs. They have a problem with the signs give them problem. They don't know when the answer is negative or when the answer is positive. It's just confusing, sir. I feel like I'm guessing. So essentially what we want to try to do at the end of the class tonight is take the guesswork out of mathematics. We want to remove the whole idea of confusing ourselves. So as opposed to guessing what the answer is going to be, we're going to be 100% certain what the answer is going to be. All right. Now, to simplify this for you, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to see now that there are only 3 consistent situations that pop up, right? And the situations are going to be 1, there's going to be a situation where you end up owing more than what you have. That's a common scenario. You end up having a bill that is worth $1,000, but you only have $500 to pay. Or it could be a case where you end up having more than what you owe, which is what we like. We like to say, okay, then if we have a bill of $1,000, we have $2,000, so we can essentially pay our bill and leave us back with something left over. So that's the idea. And it could also be a case where you end up not having anything at all and you end up just owing. All right. So we're going to look at 3 basic examples. Then we're going to put them all together to make all of this concept make sense. So here is example number 1. Just a second there. Let me just put on my, all right, here we go. So hopefully I have that information. I'm going to zoom up here for you. All right, so here are some examples, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to look at some examples. All right. So let's grab a pen here. All right. So here are some examples then. We're looking at, say, for example, EG. All right. So let's EG, example. Example number 1, right? Let's say we have a situation like 9 minus 15. All right. And to some, this may be very simple, right? This may be very simple for some, but for some person, this gives them headache, right? Headache. 9 minus 15. What is the answer for that? Well, essentially, if we want to get the answer for this, we are going to be viewing the number from a different point of view. All right. And so we're going to view the number from this point of view here, that the negative 15 represents the amount that is owed. All right. And then the positive 9 here. And sir, how do you know it's positive 9? Because there is no sign in front of the 9. So therefore, we can assume that this 9 is positive. All right. So positive 9, right, means that that's an amount that you have. Okay, that's an amount that you have. Now, in this situation here, it is very evident that you owe more than what you have. The point is, you have something to pay. So as long as you have something to pay in mathematics, most likely you're going to go broke all the time. You're always going to go broke because in math, you cannot pay some of what you have. You have to pay all of what you have. So essentially what I'm saying here to you here is that you owe 15. You owe an amount of 15. You borrowed 15 of something. It could be $15, 15 plums, 15 bananas, 15 something. You owe somebody 15. However, you're only able to pay them back 9 of what you owe. So therefore then, your final answer is going to be minus 6. Essentially, your answer is going to be minus 6 because you still owe an amount of 6. All right? So that is example number 1. Right? Hopefully you guys catch on to that. Let's look at scenario number 2. All right, scenario number 2 could be the other way around, where it could be a case where this is negative 13 plus 8. All right, so what is the answer for this? We have many students, and when I tell you many, I've been doing this for a long time, and if we have 100 students, I guarantee you there's more than 45 of you in the class who is going to tell me that the answer for this is negative 21. Because essentially what many persons do is that they go ahead and they add 13 to 8 and they get 21 and then just write back down the negative. And so essentially then you're going to find that you always get the question incorrect. So how do we counteract this mistake from happening? There, it comes back again, guys, to you looking at the number from a different point of view. So now we are going to see that the negative 13 represents an amount that is owed, right? And the positive 8 represents an amount that you have. And again, a classic example where we encounter this every day, where sometimes we end up owing more than what we have. So how do we solve this problem then? Very simple. That negative 13 represents an amount that you have, that you owe, pardon me guys, an amount that you owe, and the 8 represents an amount that you have. So clearly you do not have the amount to pay what you owe. Very clear, right? However, you have something you can pay and you need to pay it. So you have 8, you need to pay up all the 8 that you have. Essentially then you're still going to owe me. You're just not going to owe me 13, you're going to owe me an amount of 5. And because you still owe me, it is going to be negative 5. All right? Are we following, ladies and gentlemen? Use up your microphones, please. Do you understand? Are you following?
Yes, sir.
All right? Any questions thus far before we go into the third scenario?
No, sir.
No question. All right, lovely. Let's move right along. Okay? Let's move right along. So example number 3 now would be the final scenario. And this is a tricky one. Why it's such a tricky one? Because like I said, guys, majority of you in this class, whether you be older persons or younger persons, usually what you guys have is some ambiguities in your learning. Sometimes you guys have selective hearing. So you guys think you hear what the teacher said to you. For example, classic mistake. Minus 7 minus 5, right? How do you work out a question like negative 7 take away 5, negative 7 take away 5, all right? I'm sure that some of you would agree. You can agree if you want to agree, or lie to yourself if you want to. A lot of persons in here says that negative equal positive. Not true? Of course we have the persons in here that says that, or them said that's what the teacher taught me. I guarantee you, if you're taught by an actual math teacher, a math teacher is not going to tell you that negative and negative equal positive. But what the teacher actually said was that negative multiplied by negative will produce a positive result. Not true? That the teacher saying. But you think the teacher says negative and negative equal positive. There is no indication of a multiplication sign here. If there was, then I cannot agree with you that negative multiplied by negative is positive. So we need to get out of that habit where we say negative and negative equal positive, right? There's no such rule as that. In fact, if you want to use the word we're going to change it to and. So it is negative and negative equals negative. Negative multiplied by negative equals positive. We are not multiplying here, ladies and gentlemen. There is no indication of any multiplication sign. Now, since that is a problem for many persons, we're going to clear that up now. Again, we're going to use the perspective of O and have, the O and have technique. So now in this case now, the negative 7 represents an amount that is owed. And the negative 5 represents also an amount that is owed.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, go ahead. Question.
Someone texted in the WhatsApp group that the computer was shut off, so they're just joining back now. They're in the waiting room.
All right. Thank you very much. I will let them through as soon as I'm through with this example. Okay. Thanks very much. All right. So negative 7 minus 5. All right. So negative 7 minus 5. The negative 7, ladies and gentlemen, represents an amount that is owed. And the negative 5 represents also an amount that is owed. Turn it round. Just imagine you borrowed $7 from a friend. Not true? And then you go back to another friend and you borrowed $5 from that friend. How much money did you borrow from both friends altogether? That would essentially be negative 12. So I don't want anybody in my class saying negative 7 minus 5 is negative 2. Because what you guys essentially doing is that you're taking away the 5 away from what you think is a 7 and then writing down back the negative that is in front of the 7. That is a common mistake, and actually not just a common mistake. It's a fundamental mistake, and CSEC don't really take light with those kind of things. It shows that the root cause of your problem in math is not even vectors, matrices, functions, relations, and graph and all those stuff. It is simple stuff like this. All right. And in my class today, I had to give my class 4 examples for all the hands to go up. It was quite an interesting class. When everybody left, they were like, oh, just I get this now. And I'm sure that you guys have this very same reaction right now. You'll be like, oh, so this is the problem. Now I understand. All right. So negative 7 minus 5 is equal to negative 12. Just a minute, guys. Let me see who is in the waiting room. All right. I really don't like this, but it is what it is. All right. Okay. All right. So here we go. We're going to go back onto the whiteboard. All right. So that is the situation that we have then. All right. So ladies and gentlemen, what you're going to be doing going forward then is essentially you are going to say to yourself that once you see a negative whole number or a positive whole number, you're going to assign the whole number, the positive number, as an amount that you have, and you're going to also assign the negative number as an amount that you owe. And then you are going to evaluate the situation. You're going to evaluate the situation. Please remember, guys, control your microphones. If you have a question, ensure that your microphones in the background doesn't have any noise that you don't really want to go out into the public. Okay? All right. Any questions from anyone? Everybody's up to speed? Oh, you have a question? Go ahead.
Sir, finally I'm getting this, but can you do one, like you said, if there's a negative, for example, you have negative 7 minus negative 5. Can you do one like that?
No, we get in there. We get in there. Okay. That is called sign clash. We get in there.
Okay.
You know, Mr. Pierre, don't miss, man. We cover everything. So we get in there. We get in there where you have the sign clashes and the double signs and all of that good stuff. So we get in there. All right. I just want to know at this point, does anyone have any questions? The microphone, the platform is open for you to ask any questions before we go on to applying this in a full form. All right. Essentially, no questions. We're going to go right ahead then and clean up the screen. All right. So no questions. Here we go. So now, what is an actual question going?
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, go ahead.
Sir, could you please
Somebody
go
just
over
have
that? I wasn't in the class for a minute.
No, we're gonna go through it right now. We're gonna go through it with an example, like a structured example.
Thank you.
Yeah, man, you're most welcome. All right, so here we go, guys. So now the question is going to be, let me just use a different color marker. Black is always best. All right, and remember, ladies and gentlemen, that the following questions aren't CXC based questions. We are literally just trying to clean up, ensuring that everybody's fundamental is intact before we dive off into the syllabus, right? So we don't want to have them problems later on. So evaluate this question. Say here 10 minus 15 minus 12 plus 7 minus 2 minus 9. All right. And you're asked to evaluate this question again without the use of a calculator. Right. So, sir, why me can't just use my calculator and just get the answer? Sir, me can't bother. This class is not for that. You'll get a chance to use your calculator later on. But for now, when you have to use your calculator to check simple, and I'm going to say simple, right? Stuff like this, you're wasting time. Okay, guys? You have to be able to mentally do this, right? Because if you're going to use a calculator just to check what is 10 negative, not saying that you can't, I'm just saying you'll find it more fruitful when you are able to do it. You're going to find yourself feeling much more positive and confident not having to use the calculator. But the calculator can be used for verification. Okay? So how do we approach questions like this, ladies and gentlemen? What we're going to essentially do is that we're going to create what I refer to as cases. All right? And what do I mean by a case? Well, I'm going to use my red marker for the case. So here's a case. 10 minus 15 is a case. All right? So 10, okay, here we go. All right, cancel this here. All right, so 10 minus 15 is a case. Negative 12 and 7 is also a case. And negative 2, negative 9 is a case. Now, why have I bracketed the numbers into pairs of 2? Essentially, your brain cannot work more than 2 things at the same time. Okay? Believe it or not, you can only think about 2 things at the same time. So what I've done here is that I've created what are called cases. And in each case is going to produce a different outcome. The outcome is depending on, do you still owe or do you still have? That's the case. All right. So here we go. We're going to look at case number 1. Case number 1 is an example of one of the 3 that we just completed. If you look up here at what we just completed, you are going to consistently see each of these cases repeating themselves. And so here in this example, we say evaluate 10 minus 15. Then what you're looking at here is 10 represents an amount that you have because it's positive. Sir, I don't understand how you know you're positive. Because guys, when you look in front of the 10 right here, so right? When you look in front of the 10, there is no sign. So because there isn't a sign there, you can automatically assume that the 10 is positive. And so naturally then, you're going to look then and say that the negative 15 is an amount that you owe. All right, please do not write down owe and have. It kind of makes you look like an amateur. You think about these things mentally. Earlier, when I was doing the owe and have right here, that was because we were just introducing it. So when you're doing it, please don't write have and owe. Just know in your head, say, okay, the 10 is an amount that you what? Have, and the negative 15 represents an amount that you what? Owed. So evaluate the situation now. If I have 10 and I owe somebody 15, and I essentially pay them the only 10 that I have, it simply means that at the end outcome is that I'm still going to owe the person an amount of 5. And because you still owe them, it is negative 5. Not true? Moving right along to the next case. The next case also demonstrates where you owe and have. So here, the negative 12 represents an amount that you owe, and the positive 7 represents an amount that you have. So essentially, you can only pay what you have. What I have is 7, what I owe is 12. So when you pay the 7, out of the 12 that you owe, the outcome is that you're still going to owe this person 5. All right. And you're not going to space it out, guys. I do have students that do this. It kind of makes it look like an amateur, right? Right. We don't want to do that. Just remember that once you get the answer, it goes beside the next number. So right here we get what? -5, and the result for this one is also -5. Just write it right beside each other, right? And then the last case at the end, right out here, -2 minus 9. This represents also a classic situation where we do not have anything to pay. There's no positive number there. So what are you going to pay? And be careful, do not say that negative and negative equal positive. You all need to stop that. Right? So don't say the teacher said, because I didn't say. The rule is, and let me reiterate, guys, the rule is a negative multiplied by a negative will give a positive result. There is no indication of any multiplication sign here. So therefore, this simply means that I borrowed an amount of 2, and I borrowed an amount of 9. Therefore, I borrowed an amount of 11. So in total, the amount is 11. Just a minute, guys, okay? Just a minute. I do apologize for that. So you borrowed an amount of 11, all right? Now, once you're at this stage in the calculation, you're then going to create another case. And that case now is going to bracket up the -5 and the -5. So now if I owe an amount of 5 and I owe another 5 on that 5 that I already owed, I'm now going to owe an amount of 10. So I'm going to owe an amount of 10 here. And then naturally the -11 is going to come down. And now you're going to look at this now as saying, I owe an amount of 10 and I owe another 11 on that 10 that I initially owed. Now I owe an amount of 21. And that is going to be your final answer. All right? So this is, you guys right now, without seeing you or hearing you, you're now saying to yourself, oh, so at this, me always a make mistake with like, oh, so this is how it's worked out. And of course, naturally, we're going to have persons in the class that is seeing this and be like, quite interesting, right? There is I've seen this over the years, ladies and gentlemen, so many students just, it's unbelievable, but it's true, all right? Where I'm sure that prior to this class, take for example this situation, a lot of you guys would have previously said the answer is -19. You can be honest with yourself or not. And then some person would have said the answer is 5 or some answer. Essentially, the purpose of my classes is to ensure that everyone has one common understanding and you're seeing the problem from one point of view. If you look at it from multiple point of views, you're going to be ifing and butting which method is best. And then essentially you're going to confuse yourself and then you won't know exactly what you need to do. All right? Now, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do another example all together. Together, we're going to do another example just to ensure that we're going to solidify what you're just exposed to. And then I'm going to give you one to try, and we're going to check the chat to see what the persons are saying. All right? So here we go, ladies and gentlemen, another example. Let's scroll up here. Oh, let me just open the microphone. Are there any questions thus far? No questions? I don't expect there to be, but one person might have one. Let's look at another example then. All right, let's look at another example. All right, so now you have this example where we have -3 plus 9 minus 8 minus 7 plus 11 minus 13. All right, another classic example of adding and subtracting directed numbers or adding and subtracting integers. Again, ladies and gentlemen, remember the objective is not to guess. The objective is not to hope. The objective is not to say, let me see if I get it right. The objective is to say, me are gonna nail this. Me not get this wrong. All right? So what we're gonna do, ladies and gentlemen, is that we're gonna create cases. Case 1, case 2, and case 3. All right? Sir, is there always going to be 3 cases? No, it's not always going to be 3. It can be just 2 cases, it can be 3 cases, it can be 4. It just depends on how many integers you have. All right? So there's not a set amount of case. It's just that majority of the examples that I'm teaching you usually contains 3 or 2 cases. All right? So in case number 1, let's examine the situation. Remember that prior to this class, many persons would say that the answer is negative 12. I'm not asking you, I'm telling you. I'm telling you, I've seen it where persons go ahead and say 3 plus 9 is 12 and then write back the negative. That is a common mistake that all of my students need to rid themselves of. Okay? So minus 3 plus 9 is not negative 12. It is now going to be the negative 3 represents an amount that you owe. And the positive 9 represents an amount that you have. So in this case, then, go ahead and pay what you owe. It's very clear that you have enough money. Look how much money you have. You have $9 and you only owe 3. So go ahead and pay it. So when you pay the 3 that you owe, you essentially is going to still have 6 left over. Have 6 means that it's positive. Sir, do I have to put the plus sign here? No, you do not, because plus 6 and just 6 alone still implies that the number is positive. All right? Transitioning into case number 2, classic example, as I said, ladies and gentlemen, where you guys say negative and negative equal positive. Please stop it. All right? Please stop it. Okay? Negative 8 represents an amount that is owed. Negative 7 also represents an amount that you owe. So essentially, you borrowed twice. You borrowed $8 and you borrowed 7 more on that 8. So in total, you end up borrowing a total of 15. So that's borrowing 15, that's negative 15. All right? And the final case here is an amount that is the amount that you have is 11 because it's positive, and the amount that you owe is 13. So this now is a reverse situation where you end up having less than what is owed. So naturally then, if I not have as much money to pay my bill, when I do pay what I have, I'm still going to owe an amount of 2. All right? And then at this stage, you're going to create a case here, right here. And then we're going to evaluate this case again. 6 minus 15. The 6 represents an amount that you have, and the 15 represents an amount that you owe. So if you pay, or not if, pay, you're going to pay the 6 that you have. So essentially then, you're still going to owe an amount of 9. You're still going to owe me 9, along with the minus 2, which naturally means then that you owe 9 and you owe 2 more on that 9. You're still owing me 11. And that there completes your final answer. All right? So I hope that you guys are following the thought process, right? Still, you're not going to be without mistakes. You may make one and few errors because, like I said, your brain is being reprogrammed to view this type of mathematics from a different point of view. But you're going to find yourself a very consistent and successful student when it comes to evaluating these basic arithmetic. All right? So we're going to go into the section of the class now where we give our students a chance to exercise what they have learned. And so
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, go right ahead there.
I have a question. Why isn't the 6 negative?
Because you only owe 3 and you have 9. So if you owe me $3 and you check your pocket and you have 9, when you pay me the 3 that you owe me, you're still going to have 6 left over. You can't owe,
sir.
yeah, you can't owe me at the end because you had more money than you owed. So naturally you're gonna have some left over. All right? All right, noted. So now you are going to go into a stage now. Here's how this section normally goes. You get a question, you try to get 2 minutes, right? Based on how much responses I get based on the correct answer, then you're gonna get another one to try. All right. And if I don't see the hands going up and everybody getting the correct answer, then we're going to do this until we can get majority of the class getting the answer correct, right? Before we move on to the next phase. All right, so here's your section, ladies and gentlemen. You are going to try this one. I'm going to pull up a clock on the screen there, and in that clock, I'm going to place a 2-minute timer. All right. And in a second, that 2-minute timer is going to go off. Here we go. It is going to be example number 3, which is your example. So here we go, guys. Try this for me. It is going to be -15 minus 4 plus 9 minus 5 plus 8 minus 12. Ladies and gentlemen, you have 2 minutes. You may, when you see time starter, you can go right ahead. All right, go ahead, guys. Miss Gentles, Nevea, Miss Ferguson, and Abigail, please check my chat to tell me what majority of the answers are. All right, I'm going to tell you what the answer is when the timer has been completed, and then you let me know. Well, I'm going to check the chat. So please put your answers in the chat so I can essentially give you guys a thumbs up if you guys are getting it right. All right. All right, and you guys have 1 minute, as you can see there. I will continue to talk because remember that the class is being recorded, so I do not want to have a vacuum session during the recording. So I'm going to continue giving updates during the process, but not to concentrate, okay? All right, and we are counting down, guys. We have 30 seconds. Well, almost 30 seconds. Right. You guys should be near finish now. And 10, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Your answer should be -19. Did you guys get -19? The microphone is open. -19. Am I getting -19 on your end?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
how is my chat looking, Miss Gentles?
Yes, sir.
Everybody is saying -19. We're going to go through the example for those who did not get -19. I'm sure that there are persons in here that is wondering, how the hell sir get -19? We're going to find out in a second. All right? I'm going to find out in a second. All right, so here we go, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so for those who got -19, sorry, for those who did not get -19, here is why. I'm going to create a case there. All right, and now we're going to examine each case, right? So therefore then, in case number 1 is an example of where you don't have anything to pay. You don't have anything to pay, you have you owe an amount of 15 and you also owe an amount of 4. So you end up owing an amount of 19. All right. In case number 2, you have an amount of 9 and you owe an amount of 5. Easy example, 9 minus 5 is going to be positive 4. All right. And in the final example, be careful now. Here's a perfect example. Big mistake. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody in here brought down the plus sign right here. So, and then them say 8 minus 12 and then write down 4. There is either somebody in here that did that or for some reason. Now be careful, guys. Here's a common mistake that students make. Before they calculate the case, then bring down the sign and then calculate the case. Big mistake. Big mistake. All right. You don't want to do that, guys. What you want to do is before you go ahead and calculate, before you go ahead and bring down your sign, you need to calculate the outcome of the case. So positive 8 is an amount that you have, and the negative 12 represents an amount that you owe. So therefore, when you pay the 8 that you have, essentially, you're still going to owe me an amount of 4. So because you still owe me, as opposed to being positive 4, it's going to be negative 4. If that's your mistake, you can therefore say, oh, okay, now me get it. All right. And then naturally then here, we're going to go ahead then and we're going to create another case. All right. For those of you who have your own way of working the problem, Mr. Peart is not saying to you, change your way. If your method of working this out produces a consistent result and you've been using it all your life and it has not failed you, then don't change it. But this is essentially my way of teaching, and I find that I get a lot of successful students at this level when it comes to this problem. So stick to the evil way you know, if it is that you are or you have your own method of working this out. All right. In this case, now we end up owing an amount of 19 and having an amount of 4. You pay the only amount you have, which is 4, leaving you still owing me 15 minus 4. And then working this out, you get negative 19. For those of you who are saying, then, sir, why I couldn't just go ahead and just say 4 minus 4 is 0? Of course you can. You can group the numbers however you want them to. However, though, guys, what I do find is that when students don't stick to one routine, they tend to always, just create problems for themselves. So I would recommend, ladies and gentlemen, that you go ahead and stick to one routine and just work with it. All right? All right, lovely. I don't really hear anybody saying anything much about not getting
Excuse
it.
me, sir.
Yes, go ahead. Question.
Someone is in the waiting room.
I can't let anybody know it's after 8. Did the person got kicked out? If they're just joining the class, that's a problem. It's too late for them to join.
Their
They might have to join next.
Wi-Fi dropped and they got kicked out.
Okay, all right. That one. Oh, it's Chelsea. Okay. All right. All right, lovely. All right, guys. So we're going to go back here to the whiteboard. Now you're going to get another example to try. Yes, let's go ahead and try this one again. All right, and once again, you're going to be given a timer. And that timer, I'm going to use my other device because I feel so disconnected with you guys. So I'm going to use my other tablet and then I'm going to open up the chat screen so I can see what's going on in the chat in terms of you. That's the next class. So I'll be able to see what's going on in the chat whilst I'm writing on the board. All right, guys, go ahead and try this one for me again and to see if we can get it right. For those who got it wrong got it incorrect the last time, here's another opportunity. All right, so here we go. We're going to bring up my timer and we're going to change that to 2 minutes. All right, and then we're going to go ahead then and write the question. All right, so guys, here's your chance at a redeemer. So now we end up with negative 12. Pardon me. All right, so whoops. So sorry, guys. All right, so here we go. Negative 12 plus 19 minus 4 minus 11 plus 8 minus 15. All right, you have exactly 2 minutes. When the timer goes right around, then you may begin. There you go. Come on, guys, you got this. For those who got it incorrect, shoot your shot again, guys. And you're down to 1.5 minutes. You must be asking, sir, why are you timing us? I'm sure you guys have been in an exam. This is something that I've also recognized as well, ladies and gentlemen, that students complain. I have brilliant students that I've taught over the years, but them either get a grade 3 or them fail the exam, and their excuses are, sir, me run out of time. So you know me I start though? I'm starting to train you guys to work under a time constraint. Can't have you guys overthinking and thinking about simple, intermediate, or complex math problem, and I take 20 minutes to solve a problem. Not going to work. All right, we have to start training our minds to work under a time constraint. Okay?
Sir,
Yes, go ahead.
I have the answer. Should I wait
Well,
until the time?
don't say, don't, just leave it in the chat. Just put your
Okay,
answer
sir.
in the chat, right? So that my mediators, if you want to call them that, will confirm with me how the chat is looking. Okay. All right, we're down to 15 seconds. And we're down to 10. You should have your answer by now and confidently. And as I'm looking at this here, this looks like -15. How is my chat looking? -15. Microphone is open. Go ahead. Am I getting -15?
Yes, sir.
I'm getting -15. How's my chat looking, Nevea? The chat looking -15.
Most persons have that, sir.
Most persons have -15. All right. Background, Nevea. Background. All right, lovely. Most persons have -15. Good. Is there anyone who would like the opportunity to explain to the class how you got -15? Do you want to walk us through? Anyone wants to volunteer?
Sir, can I try?
All right, go ahead. Who am I speaking with?
McClarty.
All right, Miss McClarty, go ahead. Walk us through the steps that you took. I don't want the answer, I want the steps. Go ahead.
Sir, I'm trying.
That's fine. That's what we want you to do, to try. Go ahead.
Okay, so first, I went ahead and I bracket the -12 plus 19. Then I also bracket -4 minus 11. And I also bracket the +8 minus 15.
All right, wonderful. Good start. Next one, continue. Next step.
After that, I worked out the first set that was bracketed.
Correct.
And that gave me 7.
+7. Okay, good. Good job.
Yes. And the second bracket, I got -15.
Very good. Excellent job.
And for the third one, I got -7.
Very good. Excellent.
After that, I went ahead and bracket the 7 and the -15 or the
Beautiful.
15, and I got 8.
8 or -8? Which one?
+8.
+8. We're having a problem there.
Having a problem?
+8. That looks like you owe me 15. So is it +8 or -8? Because you owe me 15, Miss McClarty, and you only have 7. So when you pay me the 7 that you have, you can't still have $8. You're going more than likely owe me 8, not true?
Yes, I balance it there.
Okay, so it's -8 as opposed to 8, right? Continue. Just wrap it up same way.
And sir, I brought back down the -7.
Mm-hmm.
and then I just the -8 and the -7, and I got the -15.
All right, wonderful, excellent job. All right, and I trust that everyone did the same thing as Miss McClarty did. Good job, Miss McClarty. This is where it starts. It starts by you getting one question right, then getting two questions right, then three, and all of a sudden the confidence in math starts to come back. But you have to start getting it right from the beginning so that later on in the middle, you can always look back and say, hey, I actually started getting math right, you know? Because this is where it starts. All right. Good job, ladies and gentlemen. For those who got it right, thumbs up to you. I'm gonna go ahead and give you guys a thumbs up in the chat. Okay. All right. Hold on. All right. So for those who got it right, I give you a heart. Again, I'm gonna give you guys some tick as well. Good job if you guys got that right. Yes. Lovely. 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 All right. So assuming that there are no questions and everyone is okay, then we can move on to now adding an extra layer of difficulty to the question, right? Just an additional layer, okay? So what else? Can this question get harder? I don't think it can get harder, but I think it can get a little trickier, all right? And so the student who inquired about doing a particular question earlier in the class, we're now at that stage where we're going to be looking at what is known as double signs, okay? Or what I call sign clashes. So what exactly are sign clashes? We have 15 minutes. Let's just add this quick little layer. So we're looking at what is called sign clashes. All right, sign clashes. So what are sign clashes? Ladies and gentlemen, you're only going to experience two types of clashes in this part of the arithmetic. And that is the clash where you have a negative clashing with a negative, and you also have a positive clashing with a negative. So what do you mean by a clash? It means that you have two signs following each other. So you either have a negative following a negative or a positive following a negative. All right. And so when that happens, it tends to always make a simple math looks complicated. And remember that these type of situations are teacher created. Teachers do this just to test their students. You may see it pop up maybe once in a while when you're doing an advanced concept in math, but it's not something that is going to always be nagging at you. All right. So here's a situation. Here's example number 1, where you end up with a situation like 8 minus 12. All right. Common situation where students kind of just be like, oh Lord, I am not so sure how this one work out. And now, if you pay very close attention, ladies and gentlemen, to the middle part of this problem, you'll recognize naturally here that there is a clash of signs. And so let's look at the result of the clash of signs. When you have two negatives colliding, then no, this is where now you can get away with the idea of saying negative, negative. Jamaican people, so them stay, right? So negative, negative, when it literally means negative. This is an example of multiplication. In mathematics, we call it implied multiplication. So you don't have to see a multiplication sign for you to say that there's a multiplication taking place. Bracket implies multiplication sign. It's almost like you see a female with a ring on her hand. She don't have to tell her that she's married. The ring implies that she's married. Not true? So you can just look at somebody and be like, okay, she's married. How you know that? Because the ring symbolizes or implies that she's in a communion. Not true? So it's the same thing in math. When the negative with the bracket and another negative sign, it means that both signs are multiplying each other. So essentially, a negative multiplied by a negative becomes a positive. Therefore, we can rewrite the question without the clash. That is 8 plus 12. That works out nicely to be 20. All right. So that would be example number 1. Now let's look at another example then where it might come off a little tricky For example, let's say we end up with -9 plus -2. Classic example again, where just how it look make the student feel like, oh, Janu, a question are hard. It's not hard. It can be a little confusing if you don't know what you're doing. And so essentially you can see once again that there's a clash occurring here, where there's a positive clashing with a negative. Now we said earlier that when a negative clashes with a negative, we get a positive, but now we're essentially saying that when a positive clashes with a negative, we're going to end up with a negative. So essentially then we can rewrite example number 2 without the clash, because now we're realizing that -9, the plus and the minus clash and becomes a negative, so that's -2. So therefore this works out back now to be I owe an amount of 9 and I owe an amount of 2. Now I owe an amount of 11. All right. So please bear these things in mind. They are going to pop up now and again, right? And remember, if you are in this class, you will realize that it only, thus far, you're already seeing that all it takes for you to get one of these math problem wrong is a wrong sign. Once you put down one incorrect number with the incorrect sign, it's a domino effect. The whole question is incorrect, right? So we want to ensure that we eliminate that, okay? All right, so with that situation, then we have 10 minutes. Let's see what we can achieve from that, from this section. We're gonna construct a question. Remember, these questions are designed specifically to test the student's ability to recognize sign clashes. All right. So don't think that you're going to get this on a CSEC paper. Absolutely not. We are nowhere near there, sir. Nowhere near there. All right. So here we go. Now we're looking at this example. All right. -10. Let's grab a pen here. All right. Here we go, guys. -10. So -10 plus -2 minus -4 plus -9 minus -7. So look at that problem now. All of a sudden, it just start look complicated. But it's just look complicated. If you were listening and if you are following the class and the examples and you're with us, you'll recognize that all you're seeing here, is a smoke screen. The smoke screen is the clash. A clash here, a clash here, a clash here, and a clash there. So we can identify the clashes. And if we can identify the clashes, then we can remove them. And once we can remove the clashes, we're going to go back to where we started at the beginning of this class. So let's get rid of these clashes. I'm going to use a different color ink just so we can see clearly what these clashes are. So here we go. A positive clashing with a negative essentially changes the sign to a negative. When a negative clashes with a negative, it essentially changes the sign to a positive. And similarly, if a positive clashes with a negative, it changes the sign to a negative. Similarly, and finally, if a negative clashes with a positive, we're going to end up with a positive. So now that we have identified the clash and we have identified the solution to the clash, we can therefore then write down the question without the clash. So here we go. We're going to have -10. And then obviously those two signs disappear and only the green ones come down. -2 plus 4 minus 9 plus 7. And so on and so now, the math problem that once looked complicated because we clean up the clash, clean up the little areas in the problem, the math problem now goes back to what we were doing earlier. What we were doing earlier was essentially creating what are called cases. All right, so we create two cases here. In case number 1 represents the common scenario where we do not have anything to pay. Essentially, we owe an amount of 10 and we owe an amount of 2, so now we owe an amount of 12. Second case, you have an amount of 4 and you owe an amount of 9. So if you pay the 4 that you have, you're still essentially going to owe me an amount of 5, and you bring down your minus 7. All right? And then we're going to create another case again where, oh, sorry, that's a, no, not correcting me, guys, that's a positive 7. Don't let me get away with that mistake, guys. Come on. All right, and then we have minus 5, minus 12, minus 12, minus 5, same difference. We have minus 12 is an amount that you owe, minus 5 is an amount that you again owe, so you still owe me minus 17. Sir, I don't understand. You just tell me say negative and negative equal positive. That's not what I said. I said to you negative multiplied by negative. We are not multiplying here. You know why I'm using this illustration? Because usually I hear students say, they say this to me, like in the class, they'll say, sir, I don't understand. You just said negative and negative equal positive, and I didn't say that. Let's go back up to what I said. What I said was, when a negative clash with a negative, you get a positive result. There is no clash here. You have negative 12 minus 5. There's no clash. There's not a combined sign. The signs are separated by numbers. So in the event that we have a student in this class who is about to say that I said what I didn't say, please note, negative 12 represents an amount that you owe, negative 5 represents an amount that you owe, so you still owe 17 plus 7. And now, naturally then, don't get caught now, guys. Don't get caught. I know it's tempting. It is tempting for you to say, sir, the answer is negative 24. Because you add the 17 and the 7, and then you get 24, you write down the negative 24, and then all that work becomes futile because you make a huge mistake. Negative 17 represents an amount that you what? Owe, and positive 7 represents an amount that you have. So clearly you do not have as much money to pay, but you're going to pay. You have 7, so pay it. Therefore, you're going to still owe me an amount of 10, negative 10. All right? All right, ladies and gentlemen, so we are 5 minutes out pretty much, but sometimes we're going to go over by 5 minutes because we want to make sure that students get an equal opportunity to answer a question on their own. So as usual, I'm going to put up a timer of say 2 minutes. I'm going to give you one to try. And as usual, my mediators are going to tell me what's going on in the chat for this class. Next class, I'll be able to see what's going on in the chat. So go ahead and give this one a shot, guys. All right. Sometimes we're going to go over time. It's okay. All right. So here we go, guys. Try this one for me. 12 plus negative 15 minus 11 plus negative 9 minus 14. All right. So you have approximately 2 minutes to get the answer to this question. Let's begin.
Sir, repeat the question.
It's on the screen, sir. I remember, guys, step number 1, identify the clashes. Step number 2, remove the clashing by putting one single sign. Step number 3, write down the problem without the clash. Step number 4, create the cases, evaluate the case and write down the outcome. And number 5, write down your correct answer. You are down to almost a minute. So step on the gas, guys. And you essentially have 1 minute to go. I trust and hope that you guys got some clarity based on this type of math, and you're now going to use whatever it is that you're taught in future lessons. All right, we're down to almost 30 seconds. Most of you should have an answer. My mediators, please check my chat to see what the chat is saying. Don't shout out the answer yet. We're down to 20 seconds. Your guys should have your answers by now. That's going to be I'm looking at the answer here. All right, down to 10 seconds. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. My mediators, is my chat saying positive 15? Positive 15? I'm not hearing you guys talking to me. How's my chat looking? Positive 15?
No. It is mostly 13.
Everybody saying 13? I could be wrong.
There's
Most persons
only
are saying 13.
Yes,
Most
sir.
persons have 13.
Okay,
One
most
have
persons have
15.
13. So I made a mistake like that today, so I could be wrong. I could be wrong. All right, so let me just double check. If the answer is 13, I stand corrected. If the answer is 15, then no say, make a mistake. But let us see then. All right, today I made a huge mistake, and everybody was like, they weren't laughing at me, but they were just like, sir, how could you make that mistake? It happens. All right. So here we go. Let's check it. All right. There's a clash here, a clash here, a clash here, and a clash here. Assuming that you guys got the clashes identified, then we're going to go ahead and say that this clash produces a negative, this clash produces a positive, this clash produces a negative, this clash produces a positive. Assuming that all of you have that clash there, we're going to go ahead and write down it without the clash. 12 minus 15, positive 11, minus 9, plus 14. All right, and once again, assuming that you guys have this written down correctly, we're going to go ahead and create the case. 12 minus 15 works out to be minus 3. 11 minus 9 works out to be positive 2. And that's plus 14. All right, you guys are in fact very much correct. It answer is 13. So I was, ironically, I was incorrect. All right. So minus 3 plus 2 is minus 1. And minus 1 plus 14. Excellent, guys. You guys got 13. All right. So I may have miscalculated while I was doing it mentally, but wonderful job. If the chat is saying positive 13, that's very, very good. So thumbs up to you guys. Very good. Give you guys a heart. Give you guys a star. Excellent job. Excellent, excellent job. So I trust that you guys actually got it right. And if you did, you give yourself a thumbs up, a star, a tick. All right? Good job. Good job. All right. So essentially, we covered the objective for today, which is ideally to eliminate the problems as it relates to science. Remember, the class is being recorded, so feel free to check out the post. Maybe I post it tomorrow. Maybe I post over the weekend. Depends on my schedule. But you are already subscribed to the channel, so you can actually access those when they are posted. Also, I completed the whole entire video on the diagnostic test. When that is posted, you guys can check out the full tutorial, and you guys can essentially see how all those questions are worked out. All right. For those who don't have the link to the YouTube channel, you can find it in the description of the WhatsApp group. Click on the link and show me some love and support the channel so we can get it to over 1,000 people. Yes. All right. So with that said, if there aren't any questions, I want to thank you guys for joining, and I'll see you guys on Wednesday for another session where we're going to be moving on to order of operations. So until then, take care. Have a good night, everyone. Bye-bye.
Goodbye, sir.
Bye, sir.
Bye-bye.
Bye, sir.
All right. Bye-bye. Good night, everyone.